welcome to my channel. My name is Justaria Curry and I am the Demystified Herbalist. On my channel, you're going to learn everything about the plant body, human body, and the unique synergy that exists between the two. Today I'm coming to you for a book talk because I did something. I'm so excited. I am a published author of 2 books. So I am crazy excited, blessed, thankful. I mean, you name it, I'm just there. Okay, and real quick before we get started into what I'm getting ready to talk about today, shout out to all the content creators and all of that, because when I tell you how many times I have shot this video, I probably could do bloopers for days. Okay, because right when I got started for the video, it's like baseball practice, kids, bugs, my own kids, everybody want to be a part of the video today. Birds, you hear them chirping today, but we're gonna let nature be what it is. And we're not going to let that hinder anything. We are just going to get into this book talk. Now, first of all, what is a book talk? Okay, a book talk is simply me as the author talking to you about my book. It's kind of giving you the commentary of the books that I wrote. And the reason why I decided to do this is because a lot of times I see books, and I buy books all the time. So I see books and I'm like, okay, the summary gave me a little synopsis, but I'm still on the fence on whether or not I should purchase it. Is it really going to help me? How is it really going to help me, right? And so I decided, I said, well, if I'm thinking that, I can't be the only one. I'm going to go and do something just a little bit different, and I'm going to have a book talk to kind of give you an idea of what my books are about, my inspiration for creating them, and give you a sneak peek on what's on the inside of these books. And I have my tabs. You know, I like to stay organized, educated first, okay? So let's get into this, all right? I don't want to make the video too long. Today I'm going to talk about Survive, and in my next video I'm going to talk about my second book, okay? So let's get into Survive. Survive is a 146 page book, okay, that talks about survival. Now, when I chose the title, my initial title was an herbal survival guide or whatnot, but as I began to sit down and think about it and I began to write it, it really just kind of evolved into its own title. And I combined my social work along with my social work experience, okay, along with my herbalist experience, and I merged them two together. One of the things I found, which also prompted me to write this book, was that from my social work experience, I saw that people didn't have the tools and the skills needed to survive. Okay, they didn't have the basic skills that are needed to survive. And I'm not just talking about out here in the wild, I'm also talking about in life. And so because of that, I said, you know what, this can't just be an herbal survival kit as if you were out in the wild somewhere. This can't be that type of book. Not just that type of book. It has to be an all-encompassing, comprehensive, packed book. So I packed everything in here that I can think of. This is, like it says, an herbal response to most of life's issues, okay? So I cover the gamut from situational issues to cuts, scrapes, bruises, common colds, you know, fibromyalgia, just different things that you may deal with, divorce, stress, fear, anxiety, panic attacks. Those type of things are addressed here with the herbal remedies, herbal methods, herbal strategies to address those things, okay? So let's get into the book. Now, when you first open the book, you will go to, of course, through the disclaimers and all that kind of stuff. You got to have that stuff in there. If you are an author, you got to let people, you got to disclaim everything, okay? But I have my preface, okay? So the preface talks about each chapter. It tells you what's it, in general, what's it about, okay? So you can definitely go in there. And I say, Survive is not just a book about what to do if you get stuck in the wild. This topic is based on a combination of over 15 years experience researching and using herbs, as well as an educational background in social work, okay? So it combines both of my knowledge of those things, human behavior, as well as herbal medicine, okay? So I want to start, I was trying to figure out, like, how would I go about this? How would I go about talking about the book without giving too much, but give enough so that you can understand kind of where this book is going, okay? So I'm going to go over the table of contents. The table of contents starts out with the human body, okay? And so the human body is going to be the forefront of every book that I write because it's just that important. If you don't understand the human body, okay, its functions, how it's designed, then it's hard for you to understand how to use herbs or what role that herbs play in, helping the human body get back to balance. Okay, so I always put in all of my books, all of my writings about the human body. So this first chapter is dedicated to the human body. It talks about all of the systems of the body, the organs that are in the body, the functions of those organs. Okay, and so one of the unique things that I decided to do, if you look here, I'll just do with the nervous system, okay, as an example. I tell you what the nervous system does, okay, then I have organs of the nervous system, what this nervous system look like when it's in proper balance and what it looks like when it's out of balance. Okay, and then down here I have organ affinity. Organ affinity is that there are certain herbs that take a liking to certain body systems and certain organs. And so what that means is that they're able to really act. They really love that organ, they really love that system. So they're really able to do some powerful things within that system. It's almost like proper pairing. So I talk about the herbs that are best suited for this system. Now, this is not all encompassing, okay? There's tons of herbs, but I wanted to just give you a few so that you can kind of have a reference point, okay? The next thing is system actions. So for those of you that are doing formulations, it's important to understand what actions the herbs need to have on the body. So is it a nervine? Does it need to relax the body? Is it anti-inflammatory type of herb? So the system actions, any type of formula that you do for the nervous system, these system actions are what the herbs need to do for the nervous system in order to balance it out. Okay, so I put that in there. Juicy. All right, so that is the human body. Very important. Okay, I talk about every system that is in the human body, okay, structure and function. Okay, the next thing is first aid, basic first aid. In any type of survival situation, you have to know about basic first aid, okay, because anything can happen. So I put the information in here about basic first aid and the situations that you may have to deal with and the steps in order to be able to administer basic first aid. Okay, so that's in there. I told you this book is jam-packed. The next, excuse me, my throat's like, oh, but girl, bye. Come back, throat, come back. Don't be trying to leave me now. The next is herbal first aid. Okay, herbal first aid talks about first aid situations where herbs can work on the body. Okay, and it gives you those different types of scenarios. It also lists, I have listed probably over 40 herbs here that can be used for first aid situations. Okay, I give you a nice little list that you could look at for those type of situations. Okay, it also talks about the issues that herbs can actually address. Okay, issues that may need more than herbs to address. So like when you need to call the ambulance, the police, whoever, and this is usually like severed legs, those type of things. You can use herbs, but they really aren't going to be sufficient or quick enough to address something so as severe as that. Okay. The other thing is your herbal first aid kit. So I talk about the essentials of the herbal first aid kit, what you need to put in there, and you can use this kit at home. You can use it on fishing trips, hunting trips. You can use it at softball games, football games. You can use it at any given time, but it is your uniquely combined herbs that address your situations, things you may deal with, cuts, scrapes, bruises, bumps, infections, and those type of things. And I teach you how to do that in this book, okay, how to create those. The next section is called methods to administer herbs. Okay, so the methods to administer herbs are basically just the way you use your herbal formulation. So for example, a decoction is basically where you take herbs and simmer them down and take the juice off of them. Okay, very potent, very strong, usually used in like upper respiratory issues when you really need that short-term punch and pack healing power, that type of thing. Decoctions are good for that. So it talks about each and every other method, tinctures, pills, powders, herbal, suppositories if you need them. It has all of that in here. Okay, and not only that, okay, I didn't just say, okay, this is what it is, but I talk about the issues that that particular method addresses, okay, the best part of the plant that you can use, supplies that you need to prepare it, and I also give you a simple recipe for each method, okay? And then the last thing is the recommended dosage. Again, it's just a recommendation. You basically use the dosage based on your situation, how chronic or acute it could be, that type of thing. But this is just kind of like to give you a starting point and give you a guide. Okay? Now, the next part of this book, we talk about common issues. So, common issues are basically just everyday things that you might be dealing with. Bacterial infections, like I said, cuts, scrapes, bruises, minor cuts, those type of things. Let me see what else I got in here. I got a lot of stuff in here, y'all. Fungal infections, extreme colds, eye conditions, ear infections, extreme heat. I think I already said colds and flus. So, fungal infections, heart issues, headaches. I mean, I try to cover it all. Urinary tract infection issues, teeth issues, wounds and bruises and viruses. I tried to cover the gamut of what are some common issues that you might deal with. So how did I divide all that up? So I would take the issue, and then I have here where it says types. Okay, I don't know if y'all, hopefully y'all can see that. Types of issues. Okay, so types of bacterial infection. Let's just start since I'm right here. Bacterial infection, I'll tell you what it is. Okay, the types of bacterial infections, the symptoms of the bacterial infections, the strategy to address your bacterial infections, the different types of herbs you can use to address your bacterial infection, and then the method, the way in which you can administer your herbal formulas. Okay, so for example, bacterial infections, you can use these herbs to create decoctions, douches, enemas, teas, and tinctures. Okay, so for each common issue that you may deal with, I have it structured this way. So that way it just, again, a starting point, a baseline point to understand what you're dealing with and how to address it. Okay, moving along. Next thing you know, I also have in here, I call it situational first aid. Okay, this is more urban survival. So I talk about several different issues such as poor air, poor water quality, job loss, poverty, medication shortage, food shortages, or food deserts. You know, um, I talk about the effects of these things on our health, how it impacts our health. I talk about strategies in order to address these things, and I give you tips and tricks to help you be able to, for example, poor air quality and things like that. I have a list of herbs in here that kind of you can use, plants and things like that, to kind of help clean your air, okay, that you breathe. So there's just a lot of things. Medication shortage, so that's a big thing going on right now. So I have in here, herbs for pain, antihistamine herbs, antibiotic herbs, nausea herbs, dental care if you have dental issues, herbs for that. Okay, so a couple of different herbs for different things. Okay, but I tried to get as much in there as I could so that you could really understand, the herbs that you need to address those situations. Okay. All right, the next section is mental and emotional first aid. A lot of people out there know it as psychological first aid, and it's not that commonly talked about. People like first aid for psychological issues. It's a thing. With anxiety on the rise and everything like that, it is a thing. And so you want to make sure that you have some tips and tricks to be able to understand, well, first of all, what the psychological issue might be, some symptoms of it, some strategies to help you address it. Okay, when you can use psychological first aid and when you need to defer to professionals. Okay, and so it talks about, the common symptoms that for people that might need psychological first aid. I address issues such as anger, anxiety, fear, panic attacks, stress, unforgiveness, worry, the symptoms of these things, the strategies to deal with them, and some herbs that can kind of help with this situation. And usually it's a lot of like nervines, relaxants, those type of things, because you're activating when you operate in these different types of issues, you're activating your fight or flight response. And like I've explained before, that's like keeping that switch on, and your body thinks it's in a constant state of stress, which is not good for your body, it's not good for your health, and it definitely is not good for your immune system. So keep those things in mind, okay? The next thing I want to talk about, and that I have in this book, is called survival skills. So in this section, it talks about the survival skills that you need to know, period. All right? So it talks about how to build a fire, how to build a shelter, how to collect and purify water. It talks about first aid and how to administer first aid. It talks about how to stretch a dollar, how to stretch a meal. It talks about how to handle stress and pressure, how to hunt, cook, and prepare your food, how to read a map, how to read a compass, how to protect yourself and build weapons, and how to forage for your own food. Okay, this is very, very important section just in case you happen to be out in the wild. Okay, and one of the fun things that I learned about this is shelters. Okay, how to build an A-frame shelter, how to build, so many that lean to shelters. It was pretty funny to me to look at that, because I'm like, man, we used to act like we was building forts and all that kind of stuff growing up, but that was a thing. So we weren't too far off, but it teaches you, it gives you the supplies that you're going to need. It talks about step by step how you build these structures, how you clean your water, all of these type of things. Step by step is in here. If you are trying to catch and kill your own food, it talks about, each type of animal that you could kill. First of all, traps, to what type of traps you need. It talks about how to kill it, how to cook it, how to prepare it, all that type of stuff in this book. I'm telling y'all, it's a lot of stuff in here. One-stop book, promise. The next one section is foraging. So foraging is important. A lot of it can be intimidating to people that really don't know about foraging. The reality of it is that I want to try to keep foraging as simple as possible. And the way you can arm yourself and not be so tense about foraging is to make sure that you know how to properly identify a plant. Okay, and so the steps to properly identifying a plant before you go out and forage it is in this book. Okay, take this book with you, add it to your other field guides and that kind of stuff, so that you can go back to this and understand, okay, how do I approach this when I want to go out there and forage? Okay, so it talks about what foraging is, the rules of foraging. Like I said before, don't just go out here and just go snatching stuff off trees and all that kind of stuff. Make sure you get what you need and leave some for the other part of the ecosystem to be able to survive. Okay, now let's move on to the next section. The next section is called survival, and I outline in survival section how you hunt, prepare, and cook food, kind of like what I said before. But what's also in here is edible plants. So I talk about edible shoots and leaves. I talk about the roots that you can eat, the nuts and seeds that you can eat. I talk about the different drinks you can make, so herbal teas and stuff like that. I have listed here the plants that you can use for these things and what they do. Okay, edible plants, seasonings, and flavorings. Okay, so we have to have our seasoning. If you stuck out in the wild and let's say you grab a fish or something like that, I mean, you can eat it plain, you can eat it plain, or you can go out in nature and find you some seasoning, because we like seasoning, and cut it up, dry it, all that, and put you some seasoning on that fish. Okay, so it tells you how to do that. And these plants I tried to make sure that I get North American plants so that you can go out in whatever wild that you're in and get these things. Okay, so I talk about seasoning and plants that you can use for seasoning and flavoring, plants that you can use for syrups and sugars. Okay, so a lot of maple trees and a lot of sugar trees that you can use if you want to add a little bit of sweetener to your teas or whatever meals that you are trying to prepare. Okay, the next section is navigation. So if you are lost somewhere, you need to be able to find your way back, or you need to be able to find your way on. And so in here it talks about how to read a map, how to read a compass. These things are important. They're life skills that everyone needs to know, no matter what. Okay, even if you're not in the wild, even if you're just in a street, in a town, in a city, you need to be able to know how to navigate, how to read a map. If you're in a big city, you need to read the subways. If you're in a smaller town, you need to be able to read the back roads. Either way, no matter where you are, you always need to make sure that you can navigate your way in a situation and out. And this book here talks about how to do that, how to read maps, the whole nine. Okay? The next section is protect yourself. So, how do you protect yourself? That is very important today. No matter which side of the argument you're on, whether we should have our guns or whether we should not. Let's just say the argument is we should not have our guns and we actually one day are not able to. Okay? That should not stop you from being able to build something to be able to protect yourself. Okay? Guns are not the only thing that can do harm to people, even if it's just temporarily so you can get away. Okay, so it teaches you about the different types of weapons that you can create, how to make them, okay, and how to use them. All right, so that was a pretty fun one. There was a couple of ones in here that I was like, oh, that's interesting, so I am going to go out here and try to make me a bow and arrow just because I thought that was pretty cool. So the next section I talk about is called survival kit. Okay, so everyone should have a survival kit no matter what. Put it in the back of your trunk, put it in your home, put it in your RV, wherever you are, you should have a survival kit, okay? And so this talks about the supplies that you need for your survival kit. It's not an exhaustive list, okay? You can use some of it, you can use all of it, however you want to do that, but it just gives you a baseline to know where to start, okay? And then I have my final thoughts, which I kind of just summarize everything that was outlined here, give you some additional things to think about, and charge you with, hey, get out there, read this book, buy this book, but also get out there, forage, learn how to build your own weapons, learn how to protect yourself, learn how to build houses, all this stuff, and make it fun while it's fun now, okay? And then the second to last thing is the resource section. So I added a resource section, and it has like emergency medical numbers, it has emergency radio stations, Coast Guard information, the National Weather Service, animal poison control, regular poison control, and then the USDA number as well. Okay, United States Department of Agriculture. Okay, so it has that in there. And finally, in the back, I have included a dictionary, just a mini one, of common terms and things that I used throughout the book that you might want to go back over and use it as a reference. So there's a lot in here. It's a lot in here. It was a true labor of love, but this is one of those books that, something happens, you can grab this book, throw it in your bag and go. And you can survive in almost any situation that you may find yourself in. So if you want to get a copy of this book, I am almost done with my website, I promise. But if you want to get a copy of the book now, you can reach out to me on my Facebook or my Instagram, or you can send me an email at thedemystifiedherbalist@gmail.com. The book itself is $25, and then you add $5 for shipping and handling fees. And so what you want to do is shoot a message to me, shoot me your email address, and then you can pay through Cash App at Justaria, at JUSTARREA. And that information will be below in the description box. So hopefully you enjoyed this book talk, just kind of going through this book. I'm telling you, it's going to bless your life. It definitely blessed mine and creating it. And so I'm just grateful for the opportunity to share with you all what's on my heart. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, send me an email. I appreciate your support. Until next time.